Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Week 9 Waiver Wire report. I'm joined, as always, by Wait, hold on. That's not
What?
Jason. Jason, apparently, Joe, is it because we're such a popular show you wanted to be on? Come on, tell me the truth.
I mean, I didn't feel included enough, man. Like, I felt bad.
I'm so sorry. I
No,
apologize profusely.
Jason's taking unapproved vacation.
Talk to HR.
All good.
No problem. Well, hey, Joe, thanks so much for joining. As everybody knows, Joe signs our checks as the founder of Fantasy Six Pack. So definitely glad to have you on. You can follow Joe at F6P _ Joe. And again, hi, I'm Dap Scout, JP. You can follow me at Dap Scout on Twitter. Now, before we get started, what we like to do is we like to cover, just some high-level waiver wire picks. And what I mean by high-level, I mean the guys that you probably didn't know right away, because all these people that we're going to highlight are below 20% owned. Now, beyond that, there is a phenomenal waiver wire article, and that typically has anywhere between 40 and 50 other names, including the Dap Scout pick of the week. But how do you get access to it? Well, you become a Fantasy Six Pack subscriber. Now, on top of the waiver wire article, you also get access to Joe and myself on our Discord channel. And on the Discord channel, we have a lot of people that say, hey, can you take a look at our entire roster and tell me why I suck? Or, hey, I have 12 screenshots. Can you tell me all the people I need to pick up off of waivers? And we do that because we love our subscribers that much. And we love to get paid occasionally, Joe. So if you want to do that, please look at our plans and come on down. And then on top of that, again, you get to see the waiver wire article and the Dap Scout pick of the week, which this week I give you some help for all those injuries that you'll be seeing. And I think I'm somewhere at like all my players have been injured at least once. So I'm trying to help you guys out as well. So. All right. So as our new feature of our waiver wire, we like to highlight somebody that we've talked about previously that is still under-owned. And this week we have our friend and yours, Francisco Alvarez. Because, I mean, what is he at right now, Joe? What's his ownership percentage?
What did I say? 18%? Something?
Yes.
Something random like that?
Yeah.
Super low for a catcher.
So Francisco Alvarez,
performing like him.
Yeah, as you know, he started off as utility only. He's picked up catcher eligibility, I believe, in the last 2 weeks. And just a couple little pieces of information for everybody in case you don't know how good he is. So James Chino on James Chino on Twitter put out this great stat. So home runs by a catcher before turning 22 years old since 2000. Francisco Alvarez, and there's one other name, and he might be good, Joe Mauer. They both have 7 home runs before turning 22. Yeah, he's all right. And then another little piece, just in case you really need to understand how good Francisco Alvarez is, he has not struck out in his last 21 at-bats with a 131 WRC plus, and again, in his age 21 season. Now, again, I don't remember what you were doing at age 21, but I was not being productive in any way, shape, or form.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So, I mean, we covered this. We covered Francisco Alvarez before. You need to go out and buy him. I mean, he's had 7 home runs. He's at, 327 OBP, 505 slugging. Tell me a catcher that is better than him right now that you can find on your waiver wires, and I'll tell you that it still should be Alvarez.
Yeah. On waivers, not very many. I mean, it's pretty slim pickings out there. Alvarez has been crazy good over the last couple of weeks here. 3 bombs, hitting 333, 429 OBP. You can't ask for much more from a catcher that you're going to get off waivers.
Exactly.
That's pretty much all there is to it. You mentioned WRC plus, just in case people don't really know what that is. WRC plus is a stat that kind of tells you how good you are compared to the average MLB hitter, and the average is 100, right? So average hitter is 100. If you're above it, you're good. If you're below it, you're not doing so good. So he's doing a lot better. So that's a good stat that we both like to use, and we use it on the Fantasy Six Pack Hour pretty pretty regularly. So.
Well, and you know what? I always love. No, it's great. I always love anytime we can explain because we don't want to assume everybody knows all of the things that we call it. And I am not going to try to. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never say like WRC or try to pronounce WRC plus as an actual word. So at least you'll never have to deal with that here. So, all right, on to the people that actually is new today. But again, go buy Francisco Alvarez. If he's on waivers, just put him on your bench or start him, by God. Let's get to our first new pick, and that's Jose Caballero of the wonderful Mariners. Now, we're going to put up a little some stat fun here as well. And let me just move over here because I think I'm giving you the wrong thing, of course, because that's how cool I am. We try to do a new thing, and of course, I shared the wrong screen. My apologies profusely. Anyways, so Jose Caballero, I want to show you this because this is one of my absolute favorite things to see when somebody is, just up on the bigs. He is just driving up pitch counts, even when he's not even getting on base. Look at this at bat from the other night. I mean, he looked at 12
Holy
pitches.
Cow.
He ends up hitting a grounder, right? But he ends up fouling off like everything. Nothing. I mean, there's a couple around the strike zone, but this tells you just how locked in Jose Caballero is. And again, I didn't want to describe it. I needed to show this just so everybody could enjoy just the sheer beauty of this. Now, when you are also hitting in front of other hitters, they get to see the pitchers, all his pitches, because literally this is every pitch that pitcher had. And they also get to time his pitches better as well. So this is not only helping yourself, if you're kind of new to baseball as well, this is helping everybody behind you. So this is a really huge kind of ability for him to be doing that as well. So just something to be aware of while Jose Caballero, before we get talking about him, that's something you're not going to show on the stat sheet as well. So the actual stuff about Jose Caballero, right? The guy right now is, he's batting .403 on base percentage, .426 slugging, which is, again, great numbers, but he's not striking out. Only 20% K rate. This is the type of stuff that will earn you playing time nonstop. And, I understand he's not the touted prospect. He's 26 years old, but he's just keeps hitting. So, Joe, please tell me, if you wouldn't mind, help me understand somebody in the league this year, at second base. Can you name me a bunch of second basemen, maybe after the first four, where a guy like this who's, hitting, and by that I mean, average on base percentage, et cetera. Yeah, he only has 2 home runs in 77 plate appearances, but shouldn't be started?
I mean, I'm just going to go through here and tell you the last, I'm looking at Fantasy Pros and their player rater right now. The last 7 days for second baseman, the player rater is Bryson Stott, Corey Seager. Okay, that's a cool name. We know that one. Yep. Paul DeJong, who we mentioned on the Fantasy Six Pack Hour. Then Jose Caballero. How do you not start this guy right now? I mean, I guess the problem is that he's not starting every day. I do notice he only has 11 at bats in the last week. So that's kind of a struggle. But I mean, he's producing 2 bombs, three steals, 500 on base percentage. You like what you got to see, and that, to me, like you said, that's going to turn into just more playing time. So
right. Hey, he's doing all the small things and the big things and everything in between. So yeah, I gotta tell you that you probably don't know about him just because, again, he's not hitting those bombs, but he's somebody needs to be on.
He's definitely playing better than Colton Wong, who is probably one of the worst hitters of baseball this year. So he's got to stay ahead of him, right?
And that's the key, right? Is who's going to replace him, especially with playing time, and it's not going to be Colton Wong. I'm a terrible baseball player. My little league coach, when I was 8 years old, could definitely attest to that, and I think I could probably not play as good defense, but I could probably hit as well. I think he's hitting for something. So if you need somebody to stand there and just strike out, I could do that. Yeah,
it's pretty bad. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, so definitely go out and grab some Caballero for yourself as well. All right, so let's go on to our next guy. This one here was kind of the hot topic when he first came out. Zach Neto. We spotlighted him before, and I'm not going to lie, he kind of stunk up the place after his initial kind of burst onto the scene. So Noah Scott on Twitter, and as you know, I always like to give you these nuggets. So Noah Scott on Twitter liked to call this out. So Zach Neto's first 4 games, 1 for 16. One run, 1 hit by pitch. And I love how he called out the hit by pitch as if like that's, one of the few counting stats that he had during those first 4 games. The next 33 games, because I know a lot of you dropped him because he is way underowned. 32 for 108. That's a 296, 363, 463 slash line. So approximately 800 OPS, right? 12 extra base hits, 13 runs, 17 RBIs, and he has 5 walks. And here it comes, 7 hit by pitches. This guy is not Kevin Biggio. I'm sorry, Craig Biggio. Kevin, don't know. Craig Biggio in the hit by pitch category. And he is just doing everything. And also, by the way, he is killing left-handed pitching. If you see him, if you're in a daily league, if you see him starting against left-handed pitching, you absolutely need to start him. He's a must start against left-handed pitching. Joe, at this point, again, this is another one of those, positions that he, I don't know how deep this is, but if you look at his, Baseball Savant page, that's a lot of red. I mean, except for the walks, you need to learn how to take a walk occasionally. That's a lot of red that I'm liking in a pretty shallow position.
Yeah, and what? I apologize. Actually, shortstop highlighted when I gave those other names, so I should have realized that when I was talking about Corey Seager. But still, Caballero has shortstop eligibility as well, so there you go. So I wasn't totally wrong. But yeah, second base is actually a little farther down the list. But Neto is I think he's a good hitter. Right. But the production, like the counting stats really aren't there. So I kind of get why he's, low rostered. But again, we're trying to go after some deeper guys who can kind of, turn things around and, good contact hitter. He's right. Getting on base. That helps. You kind of hope he would turn some of those hit by pitches into actual hits. Walks don't get you home runs and, things like that. So in RBI, right. Which is something you need. Right. But yeah, I mean, I think the one issue with him is that he's clearly hitting ninth in that lineup. So yeah, maybe he'll get some runs scored because of the top of the lineup around, will turn around, right after him. But yeah, I mean, look, as I just alluded to with my little flub of talking about shortstops when I was talking about second base. Shortstop hasn't been as good as we hoped it was going to be this year. Right. And so somebody like that, just get them while they're hot and then fine, drop them when they start getting cold again. Neto's perfect for that right now.
So you need to stop beating yourself up because actually Caballero in multiple leagues of mine has 4 position eligibility. Second base, shortstop.
I will say he's actually the 3rd rated second baseman behind Bryson Stott and Odor. Who thought I was going to say that name on the podcast?
Wow, that's
Odor.
That's crazy. But yeah, so don't beat yourself up too much there on the Caballero. I wonder if, and I'm glad you brought up the whole thing about counting stats. I want to take your opinion here, right? So somebody like Luis Arez, right? He always has great average, but not much else. And we were really kind of hoping that the stolen bases were going to kind of tick up with the new stolen base rules. And now he's with Miami, but even now I'm looking at these, counting stats and it's like, what else does he have? Neto could be a guy who is just a better real life baseball player than he is for fantasy. But considering, and this is again, my opinion, I would love to hear yours. And we please disagree with me. Jason does it all the time. I just wonder if, as this guy gets more at bats under him and considering that lineup, has a lot of playing time in there beyond, the Trouts and the Otanis of the world. I'm just wondering if those counting stats don't come around at some point. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what I was alluding to. Like, the counting stats could come around. He's batting ninth, so RBI probably not going to be one right? That's tough. But batting ninth,
right.
you get that wraparound to the top of the lineup. So you're gonna get Ohtani and Trout maybe hitting you in, right?
Right.
He's got to get on base. As long as he keeps getting on base at this clip, I think that's possible. So at least you're going to get average and runs out of him. I don't see him as like a huge stolen base guy, but he's not horrible.
Right.
Now, if he starts moving into the middle of the lineup because he is getting on base, we're going to see things to shift for him. Like you go back to Reyes, and he's a guy who I have never rostered in fantasy baseball because he's a shallow category helper player.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he has a shallow personality, and I was going to be very.
It's kind of like in years past, like you get these like stolen base guys, like
right.
you're like, oh man, I'm gonna get him because he's gonna get me 40 stolen bases, but it's like,
right.
What? Like, okay, fine, he'll get you 40 steals and 70 runs and like a 250 average and like 4 home runs and 30 RBI. That's a pretty terrible fantasy player, in my opinion. You've really got to build your roster around a player like that, where they have massive gaps in their player profile as far as fantasy goes. And Neto kind of profiles as one of those guys right now. But again, things could change if he keeps getting on base. I mean, the Angels need a little bit of boost offensively still to stay competitive. And, I think if he keeps getting on base like he is, they're going to be forced to move him into the middle of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, the saving grace for Reyes obviously is, Reyes is, the 400 or 500 batting average or whatever it's at right now. I mean, something insane, but everything else is meh. All right, so on to a coveted, highly touted rookie prospect for Cincinnati. As everyone knows, Cincinnati has many fantasy exciting prospects coming up, and we have one of the top ones here coming up. I'm not talking about McLean or CES or Ellie. Wait, I'm talking about Spencer Steer, not the guy that we were all expecting. I mean, but one of my favorite Reds fans to follow on Twitter, Reds fan Brandon, on Base Machine. Well, of course, because of the, highly touted, Reds machine that was out there. He makes a good point. I mean, right now during Spencer Steer's 9-game hitting streak, he's hitting 429. And I think people are just sleeping on him because he's not one of those other names I just called out. And he's a rookie, by the way. His slash line, again, is 285, 353, 478 with 53 hits, including 6 home runs, 23 RBIs. And as Casey Perry on Twitter calls out, he has an amazing mustache. I mean, we're talking MVP layer level mustache. If you haven't had a look at this thing yet, I mean, it's a cathedral. You should be praying at the base of the Spencer Steer mustache all day, every day. Yeah, I mean, he just keeps hitting. And he's only 25 years old, and I get it. He's not one of the other, prospects I just named. But he absolutely should be rostered in every 12-team mixed league out there. I just don't know what else to say about Steer other than you need to own him. What do you think, Joe?
I've had Steer on multiple of my teams all season long. He's been coming in and off the bench, on and off the bench throughout the year. He's gotten some hot and cold streaks so far. But I mean, you can expect that from a young player like this. It's got very limited major league experience right now. But yeah, right now he's batting very well again. So he's locked in at least my utility spot in a lot of leagues. The nice thing is he's got multiple position eligibility, first and third. So you can, flip him around, and third base is kind of atrocious this year. First base is a little bit better than I think we thought it was going to be, but it's still not great. I'm looking at the player rater here on Fantasy Pros, and their value based ranking for him over the last 15 is 8th. If you do it by last 7, which is, when you're looking at free agency at this point, exactly, as we kind of said on the Fantasy 6-Pack Hour this past week, like you want to look at kind of recent trends. Like, overall season is nice, but a guy could have had a monster like 3 weeks in April. That doesn't matter anymore. Let's be real. Like, you can be like, oh, well, maybe he'll get back to that, but that typically isn't typically what happens when you find people on the waivers at this point in the season, unless somebody just drops somebody ridiculously, stupid. That's hard to do. But if you go over the last week, he's the second-ranked first baseman. So this guy absolutely needs to be rostered. People are sleeping on him for sure. Like I said, I've had him in multiple teams. We have him in our dynasty league. Did we draft him or did we just pick him up like the first week?
No, so somebody told you to draft him. I can't remember, some guy, but me.
Some guy.
But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too. It's fantasy is a lot like every relationship I ever had, which is what have you done for me lately? And that's I'm being asked that question, of course, because I like to talk to you so much, Joe, and not to my relationships. But it is that way. Same thing with football, right? Almost all of our fantasy leagues, we're a weekly relationship away from breaking up. But we have to remember that just like in relationships, just like with our crazy ex-girlfriends, we need to remember to get back with them for various reasons. And Sheila, if you're out there, I miss you. So just understand that, and understand that just because somebody was, cold during April, they can figure things out, right? They can figure out like Nolan Gorman that we called out early in the preseason, right? He fixed that high strike swing that he was having problems with catching up those high fastballs. He figured that out, and now he's Nolan Gorman with the big capital letters. This is we were talking about young players that don't have a lot of big league experience. As they get that under their belts, you can see one of two things, right? Pitchers are either going to catch up to them, and they aren't, they're going to need to, recalibrate their swing, or at the end, right, they're going to need to, or they figure themselves out. And this is what I think is really happening here as well with Steer. And again, his home ballpark, people always remember Colorado. You got to remember Cincinnati home ballpark is as home run friendly, I think, if not more than Colorado. So that home ballpark is huge advantage for him as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. So talking about bad relationships and things that we don't like to talk about sometimes is breaking up with pitchers. But man, pitching has been hard this year. People that we thought we liked have been good. But more importantly, the injuries have continued to pile up this year. And I am blaming the pitch clock. Other people are blaming other things. I'm blaming the pitch clock again. I don't know what it is, but what was bad is now good again, and that is why we're talking about Adrian Hauser. Somebody who's ever played fantasy baseball might remember Adrian's amazing good season that was sandwiched between his. Okay, so he had a career year in 2021, but 2020 and 2022 were terrible, just awful. Yeah. And I want to just show you the difference that Adrian Hauser has made this year, because frankly, it's considerable. And the only one way to show this is that's a visual. So we are going to show you what Adrian Hauser did against Houston about 3 days ago. Look at all that location. He's changing things up. He's changing eye levels. He's putting his, fastball up high and inside. We're going outside he's doing it on both lefties and righties. This is a thing of beauty. This is the kind of charts that you want to look at for a while. What do you see when you look at this dot diagram? I see a bunny. But one of the big reasons though that he's
baseball therapy. Here we go.
Yeah, let's talk more about what's really going on. So if you go to the brewcrewball.com, they have a great article about Adrian Hauser. And one of the big things he changed this year in his kind of his graph is he's way down on his sinker usage. One of the things that we always like to look at, especially with these veteran pitchers that are doing better, is what's changed, of course. And he was getting destroyed with his sinkers. And his sinker usage has gone down and his four seam usage has gone up.
Yep.
All his other mix is kind of, where it has been in the same previously. But with that kind of big change, again, going back to the Nolan Gormans of the world, right? What we need to find something concrete that's changed. Other than that, with that kind of that change, we've seen, statistics change as well. Now, he's never been a K guy, right? His K rate still in the sixes. That's pretty much where it was in 2022 and 2021. But what is going down is his walks. He went from 2 seasons at 4 to now being under 1. He's at 0.45 home run allowed as well. I mean, we're talking about somebody who is a veteran, and he's not being crafty about it, right? We're not talking about a guy who's now throwing he went from 77 miles an hour to 66, this is somebody that's actually kind of got me a little excited that he could do this a little bit longer. The only thing that concerns me is that left on base percentage, right? We're at almost 85%. Yeah. But I mean, with all the injuries, Joe, are you grabbing some Adrian Hauser?
It's something I'm definitely looking at. Like we said, he's done it before, so you like to see that. I do think there will be some regression here, but I mean, again, like you said, with all the injuries and bad pitching this year in general, Hauser's the guy that you could at least ride a hot streak for a little while. You said he mixed up his pitch repertoire here. And he has. You would imagine, he's only pitched 4 games this year, so you imagine teams and hitters are going to catch on to that and start looking for the fastball a little more. Maybe they're looking for that sinker, and he's not throwing it as often, so they're getting a little thrown off balance here. But major league teams will adjust, but you hope that as a professional pitcher, he will adjust back. Right. He might get knocked around for 1-2 games, and then he'll adjust, and the hitters won't adjust. It's a game. That's why they play, right? It's fun. Right. So, again, he's done it before. He's not going to be a monster. Like, even strikeout rates for him aren't going to be anything that you're like so excited about. Like, he really doesn't strike out anybody. I mean, it's like 6.5 a game per 9. I mean, it's not good. So if you need strikeouts, he's not your guy. But if you just need a solid ERA whip guy, who can just eat up innings, he that's where he can be valuable. And lots of those players can be very valuable for you because your ratios matter, people. Right.
Yeah. I mean, 4 out of 5 categories is not bad, right? Oh, I'm sorry. 3 out of 5, because obviously he's not giving you saves. Correct. So, right. 3 out of 5 isn't bad. Again, it all depends on your roster. And again, it depends on your needs, right? If you're getting killed elsewhere, if you drafted some pitchers, Pablo is doing great, for example, but he got killed a few times. So people like that, you might want to suddenly throw in a ratio person that's going to help stabilize things as well. Yeah,
I mean that's why guys like Mikolas, like they're valuable because they can keep the ratios down a little bit, and they're not just like striking out a ton of batters every game. Right. It's, he's at round 6-7, but his ratios are elite. And, I said about hitters where I don't like those 1-2 category hitters, but a starting pitcher who can get you 3 out of the 4 potential, that's super valuable still.
Yeah. And, he's not exactly getting pushed by anybody either out of that rotation. So that, I think his job's safe as well. And again, if you look at the waiver wire, it's slim pickings, depending on your team league size. So definitely an Adrian Hauser would come in valuable, and so will the next name on the list here. I can't believe I'm talking about Brandon Williamson. Now, Brandon Williamson, I do want to show one thing before getting the stats. I always kind of like these little, fun little tidbits. And can I show you, if you don't mind, Joe, because I want to just let you see this fun. This is his at bat against Nolan Arenado on the 22nd, and this is shared by Brandon, Reds fan, on Twitter. The thing is, when I initially looked at this, I was like, oh, it's a 2-pitch at bat. Who cares? Did you see the 2 pitches there by the base? Those are his changeups.
And don't throw that anymore.
The thing is, he struck out Nolan Arenado on this.
Goodness.
Yeah,
that's got to be one hell of a. I don't even know. How do you swing at that? That's crazy.
So I can't tell if this is how good Brandon Williamson is or how bad Nolan Arenado has kind of been throughout the year. He hasn't quite been hitting on all cylinders. But yeah, I'm sorry. I got a kick out of this, and I thought I had to show you. Reds fan Brandon, thank you so much for putting that out there for everybody to see. All right, so Brandon Williamson, so he is our rookie this year, and again, he's in Cincinnati, and we all know that Cincinnati is a hitter's park, so not always the best thing to look at as well. He's also walking a ton of batters as well, 5 per 9, which is about where he was last year in AA and AAA, but he has an upside in the lower A's, right? He only walked like 3 and he had like double-digit Ks. So I think there is some unlocked potential here. But you can't argue with, everything else that you're seeing here from Brandon Williamson. I gotta, again, looking at what is available here for Brandon Williamson, I gotta, or maybe I'm just trying really hard to make this work. Because I'm telling you, pitching is so bad right now. I don't know. I picked him up on multiple fab leagues. I really want it to work. I don't know. Brandon Williamson, I think is I think it's a good story. It's somebody who definitely he's in his 3rd start, and that's when we're going to start seeing what's real. Right, we're going to start seeing whether or not he's, is he going to get just blown up? I would absolutely not start him at home. I just if you're not doing this already, treat Reds pitchers like you do Rockies pitchers. Do not start them at home ever. That's for any Reds pitcher. I don't care. Lodolo, all the way down the line, don't start him at home unless you absolutely have to. But I kind of like him, but then again, I might be talking to somebody who just needs starting pitching. He's
a risky pickup. I'm not gonna lie. Like FIP, XFIP, Sierra all say hail to the no. We're talking over 5, so
right.
That's not good. Expected ERA is over 6, so he's considerably overperforming right now.
Right.
But we've seen guys be able to do this time and time again. So
right.
I think he's a streamable type of guy right now.
Yeah.
Play him on the road, especially against bad teams. If he plays the Marlins or something like that, the Nats, throw him in there on the road. Why not?
He starts tonight against Chicago Cubs and Wrigley. Would you start him?
Ooh, that's tough because Wrigley is the wind blowing out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you always got to know in Chicago.
I'm checking the weather report right now. Where's the jet stream?
That's always a risky one. So
right.
That's a small park as well. So not quite as bad as Cincy, but it can be a high scoring game there. And then especially with them just getting absolutely shelled yesterday, like you got to imagine the law of averages work in baseball too. Like
right.
The team gets rocked one game,
right?
They're gonna come back and start smashing the ball. So you gotta worry. You gotta worry about a guy like Williamson. They're just gonna be licking their chops, dude.
Look, if you're in a deep league, I'm in several of those. If you're in the 15 teamers, the 30 teamers, that or just in a team with a bunch of with a huge bench, you're gonna have to grab them. I'm telling you right now, this is where we're at right now until more prospects come up, etc. I'm starting him in probably half my leagues because I don't have a choice, and because frankly, like Joe said, yes, law of averages, but again, if you're just looking at stats, I'm not, it's like going to the roulette table and saying, oh look, it's been red 20 spins in a row. It doesn't change the odds for the next spin. You're gonna have to in some pieces. Look, I'm excited because there's a chance. There's a chance.
He's shown it in the minors. I get it. I totally get it.
Right. Look, we're not.
It doesn't super excite me, but he is a very deep league pickup in my opinion.
I don't like pitching this year at all. I'm Dave Eddy this year. I don't like pitching, but I'm going to have to tell you that in almost every league that I see, you have to start a pitcher. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to show you the pitchers that are available. We're laughing. I'm trying. And I was told that we have to, thank you for the feedback, by the way, for the people that do watch and send me direct messages on Twitter saying that we don't highlight enough pitchers. Here you go. Here's your Brandon Williamson, just to let you know.
Why we don't, but we try.
We try our best. Again, we do this every week. We thank you so much for watching. I'll be putting out the YouTube short as well, where we highlight the top hitter and top pitcher pick of the week. But thank you so much. And Joe, thank you so much for joining us here this week again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And
hopefully it wasn't horrible.
No, you're amazing. And the pre-show, of course, you guys don't get to see the fun on the pre-show. We were dying laughing because we get to do Fantasy Six Pack, the Fantasy Six Pack hour. Or I love how you call it an hour, but it's like a 4-hour show. And we were
it's meant to be an hour. It almost never is.
Never is. So catch Joe there.
Over an hour. It's
catch Joe there as well, along with AJ Garth. And Joe, any parting words?
Nope. Good luck this week on the waiver wire. And subscribe to the channel, guys.
All right. Well, thank you all so much and see you next week.